So both her father came from Italian descent and her mother came from the Ukrainian descent, and they were both very heavy influences on her life. As she put it, my father's parents came to the United States from Italy, and my mother's parents came straight from the Ukraine. I always wish I learned more from my grandparents, like the language and the culture, but I did learn a great deal still from my parents. Family always had big Sunday dinners with the entire family, which is where they would always spend time together with all the cousins together. And as my aunt put it, those were always my first friends, and I could not be any happier because we grew up together and we were always there for one another. My aunt also mentioned that the best was the homemade Italian food. She still has some of those recipes from family members and has passed them down to each of the family members, which is actually pretty awesome because she passed them down to all of the family members, including myself. One Christmas she made a really nice recipe book, and it was kind of nice to have all of the family members' homemade recipes. Anyway, off topic. Culture. When asked about culture, my aunt said this: after meeting my second husband, he really opened me up to an adventuresome world, as he has taken me to many different countries and introduced me to his family in France, England, Switzerland, and that is the biggest culture change for me. My aunt used to love to travel, but does not travel anymore. When asked about it, she had this to say: I wish I had the nerve to travel more, but I don't, because I hate to fly, and honestly at this stage in my life it is too hard anyway, and that is okay because I'm a homebody. We have our little house here and we are content and happy, and that is all I could ask for. Discussing religion. My grandmother's religion was Ukraine, and she was very religious and had her 3 children attend church and Sunday school every week. My aunt remembers how strict the teachings were with that religion and how hard it was to learn the Ukrainian language. When she got married, her husband was Catholic, and she decided to change her religion to match his to get married in that church. That did cause a little bit of heartache with the family between her mom and her. My aunt attended the Catholic Church and had her son attend Sunday school and make all of his important sacraments. Once she got divorced, she decided to leave the Catholic Church and now follows her own beliefs and does not attend the traditional church. Discussing education. My aunt mentioned she did not have the opportunity to attend college right out of high school. For traditional school, she did attend public school, which is what everybody did in her neighborhood. At that time, many of her friends went either into the workforce or got married and started a family, which is what she did. Very few went right into college. Most that attended college at her age did so many years later. She was working for several years when the opportunity arose for her to attend college. She went for about 2 years but never did receive her degree. Thankfully, the education was paid for her by her employer, or else she would have never been able to attend. Discussing race, social economic class. My aunt is Caucasian female and grew up in a low to middle class household. Once she got married, she probably became more of a middle class household and stayed that way all the way up until now. My aunt mentioned that she went to public school with a diversity of kids, but her neighborhood and the kids she grew up with were primarily Caucasian. She does feel that her race and social status afforded her more opportunities and privilege than the average person that she feels that she grew up with and that was surrounded by. Her family growing up was never rich, but was never in need of money. Like she put it, my father handed over his paycheck each week, and my mother paid the bills and did a wonderful job at budgeting. She passed down those money skills to each of her 3 children. She was very much aware of racial injustices around her and noted a specific time when the riots happened after Martin Luther King was killed and was working downtown. She remembers that so vividly and recalls the National Guard being called downtown for quite a long time afterwards. That had a huge impact on her life. Applying multi-systems lens to examine how family, community, institutions hindered the interviewee's life. So having a family is such an important part of this stage, and it definitely was an important part of my aunt's life. For example, institutions is an important concept, and marriage is being one of them. She feels it is a big commitment, and for my aunt, she was definitely hurt with her first marriage, and now feels more content in her current marriage. She loves her husband and is excited to continue the rest of her life with him. Also, family is one of my aunt's greatest joys. Having her son was a difficult time in her life, but he is simply everything to her, and now her 3 grandchildren are literally her life, and she just loves spending time with him. My aunt loves giving back to the community by helping anyone. Unfortunately, it was also one of the most trying times in her life. Not only did she go through disappointments within herself and her husband and her family, but also within her community. It was frowned upon when she did not conceive right away, because during that time, when you get married, you start having kids. And like I had said before, the questions started coming, and that was definitely hard for her. And she retreated to self-isolation, and because of that, it was definitely hard for her. She wanted to have kids so badly, but struggled, and it really affected her. So the additional theory that I chose was Freud's theory of psychosexual development. So during this theory, my aunt would be in the last stage. This is where a person wants to have pleasures surrounding love, work, and matures sexually. If a person is fixated on a conflict, they sometimes form defense mechanisms. This is what I feel my aunt did because of the pain of her first marriage and continues to do, unfortunately. So some of the defense mechanisms my aunt deals with is denial, intellectualization, and withdrawal. So the denial, my aunt, knew what was happening, but definitely denied it when it was happening. My aunt most definitely, she has the emotional distance that she, where she deals with the emotional reasoning and logical thinking. She creates a defense mechanism, especially distances herself, especially with her current husband. The withdrawal defense mechanism, for instance, while interviewing my aunt, I noticed many times when she experienced withdrawal. So I would ask her a question related to either her first husband or her current husband, and she would give me short answers, or just want to move on and talk about something that she felt more comfortable talking about. And looking back, I would always notice that that's something that she did all the time. So discuss limitations of one of the theories describing the interviewee's life. So the limitations, I would say, the main critiques for this theory, I decided, to do the Freudian theory, is that it's difficult to associate the conflict with the client. Definitely my aunt had a few conflicts, but I couldn't associate those with her. Also, it would take a lot of time and work, especially, for this project. I couldn't just sit there and work on this, especially with my aunt and this project. So discussing the annotated bibliography, that I used was entitled Age is Opportunity, Women's Personality Trajectories from Mid to Later Life. This is where they took a study of 166 women ages 43 to 72 and assessed whether their personalities continue to develop through adulthood and even later into life. They took 4 different time frames, 43, 53, 62, and 72. The findings show that the importance of positive and negative aspects when considering the developmental stages as separate constructs, meaning it is important to separate and examine each part of the stages as well. So generativity, stagnation, ego integrity, and despair. So many times we have unresolved regrets in our life, which leads to levels of ego integrity in a person, which is also low in despair. This will make a woman suffer developmentally and emotionally. The study also concluded that many women still enjoy relatively good health in their 70s and well into their 80s, but unfortunately some did still suffer chronic illnesses. So when I did this annotated bibliography, I found this article to definitely have a connection with my aunt. Not only, did it relate to her because she's a female and it's her age range, but she also shared, how she changed with the different stages of her life. I do believe the accuracy of this article, that women's personalities continue to change, as it's important to see that my aunt obviously changed personalities throughout her life, and obviously from the time she was 40, to 60, and now she's definitely changed her personality. And this concludes my older adult presentation. Thank you for watching. I'm excited to watch everyone else's presentation, and good luck to everybody in the rest of their program. These are also my references that I used. Thank you so much.